So welcome back to the shop, friends. On this beautiful but rainy Tuesday, we have some big projects lined up today. So my 9,000-pound Warren winch, the last time I went to use it, we were doing that logging out there at my buddy Eric's house, the White House. We were just finishing up and it quit working. This is what it's doing. It won't spool in. Listen. What that tells me is there's a series of relays in here and they're not functioning properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to tear this thing apart, get into those relays, test them for resistance and figure out what it is that's going wrong, if it's a bad connection or what it is. We've also got some other things. If I can get this done, we have, well, this is a day of electrical repairs. We have to repair Mrs. W's candelabra that's not working, so we'll tear into that. We'll check the mousetrap to see if the world's greatest mousetrap worked, and we'll derust some more tools. So let's jump into the winch. Boy, this has been a good winch. I've had this for, I guess, almost 15 years. 9000 XD 9000i, 9000 straight line pole, Warren winch with 125 feet of 5/16 cable on it, and I've pulled a lot of, not only myself, but a lot of people out of ditches with this, but it's been acting up as of late. So this is the controller right here. So this is a wired controller, and if you can see here, we've got a spool in and a spool out. So if I engage the gears here and we try the spool out, okay, we see that indeed the spool out is working, but when we go to spool in, it's engaging the relay, but not enough to bring it in. So last time I was using it, I had like 40 feet of cable out. I had to wrap it around the bumper and bring it home. So what we're gonna have to do is open this all up, and I've never been inside one of these before, so we're gonna kind of learn together, but we'll split this case out and get those relays in there and test those and find out what's going on. These are the 4 bolts that take the mount to my homemade winch plate. I was too broke back in the day and I needed a winch mount, and I couldn't afford the fancy one that they sold, and so I bought an old trailer hitch, I think, from Harbor Freight, and then welded this piece on here, and well, not very good penetration on those welds, is it? That's probably back in the day when I was using an old stick welder. I never have been all that proficient with welding, kind of just a shade tree stuff. I have to say it did work though. Let's see what we got. Well, we probably ought to pull that. Let's pull that hook off there and do it right before we break something. Warren winches have always been my favorite. Did you guys know I used to work there? It was my first job out of high school, and they put me on an assembly line boxing 8274 winches. And they came off that assembly line so fast that you had to fold all these cardboard dividers. There were like 12 of them. And they came so fast, I couldn't keep up. I was so stressed out that first day. I remember it, and cardboard cuts and all that. And those poor people that were building would have to come over and help me because they would it was getting all backed up. I felt like I'd just entered a Dickens Workhouse. Some of you guys were asking about the Instagram post where I'd taken Mrs. W to the theater on a mystery date, what the play was, and we actually went and saw, boy, do I have to take it all apart or can I get this? I'm getting in deep now, guys. I see the relays in there. Anyway, the show that we went to see was Christmas Carol, and man, was it done well. The acting and the singing was superb. I would rather have a root canal and go to a musical. You know what? I don't need to take this thing apart at all. We could have left it on the multi-mount. Oh man, now I gotta get that shaft lined up. Good grief, I can't get those planetary gears back together, and I'm fighting this drum. I'm gonna unwind the cable. Let's take the cable off of this. It's just too heavy to fight with. Boy, this brings back bad memories. When you worked at Warren, when you were bad, and they wanted to punish you for not making your quotas or whatever they had, you wound cable on drums all day long. At the cable rolling workstation, you had an empty spool like this, and you had to pull out your 125 feet of cable and crimp the ends on. Oops, for all I know, who knows, maybe I even made that end on that cable. The problem I'm having is getting all this, there's 3 things that need to come together at once. Oh, look at those planetary gears in there. That's what makes it so strong. So this is the drive shaft that reduces, the speed is reduced in there. Planetary gears are fascinating. And then this guy's got to go in there. And then that has got to fit. This drive shaft's got to line up inside of some splines there, as well as these guys. So I might have to just keep turning. Did I get that bushing on there? Well, I wasn't intending of getting into the gears, but I thought this would be a good opportunity. I can show you how this works. It's really interesting. So over here you have an electric motor, like a big heavy-duty starting motor. And you put the power to it, and that is spinning this shaft. It spins this shaft really quickly. This shaft goes into 3 planetary gears. There's a sun gear down at the bottom, and then 3 planetary gears that get progressively bigger. Now watch this. Imagine this shaft spinning here by the starter motor, really fast. But the winch has got to be strong, so it's got to pull slow. So we have a massive gear reduction. So if I put the drill on high speed, watch. Watch how slow that planetary gear turns. See, at full speed, that outside gear, see how slow it's turning? Now that meshes in with the gear right here on the drum. And that's how you get that massive strength. You've got a starter motor that's going really fast, and then we have those planetary gears getting slower and slower and slower, and they're able to produce just massive torque. All right, now let's put this back together, and we can get to the point of what I was wanting to get at here. I guess it was okay that to take this all apart, because I took all these out and I re-greased them. They looked pretty good, but didn't hurt any. Okay, so we got a bushing right here. If I remember, it's got a tab on it. Yeah, so make sure that bushing's got a split in it, so make sure you put that tab in. And it should, we should be able to line it all up. Now we're cooking. So if we do free spool, we should be able to, that should just turn. The only thing that happens when you go to engage, when you engage this, it's a cam, it pushes that big ring gear, so that's locked up there, pushes that ring in there and engage those planetaries, and then now that pulls it back, and you could free spool it so you can pull your cable out. All right, let's get to the electrical. So take everything I'm about to tell you with a massive grain of salt. Electrical is not my expertise, but I do understand what a relay is. So a relay is a really fascinating little piece of equipment. And what it essentially is an electric switch. And how it works is if you have to turn on something that takes a lot of power, like an electric winch here, I think draws probably somewhere around 200 amps or so. You've got to have a switch for that, right? So look at the size of these cables. We've got these big, probably number ones there, cables that are supplying power to the motor from the battery. Now, if you were going to have a switch, say, for example, inside the cab, you don't want to have these great big monster cables running up there to a great big huge 200 amp switch. It just wouldn't be practical. Plus, you're going to lose voltage in those long lengths because 12 volt, how I understand it, you want to keep your runs as short as possible. So that's where the relay comes in. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. And a relay, it's just basically does the same thing as this one right here. So if you want to power to turn on, let's say your winch is connected here and your battery is connected here, and you want to turn this on, right? You want to make that connection. You don't want your winch running all the time. You can run a little tiny wire up to your dash that basically turns this on. There's an electromagnet that when you turn it on, you'll hear a clunk here in a minute. It'll go clunk, and that that thing either moves up or down or moves somewhere in there and makes a connection between these two things. That way you can have the short distance of fat wires, and you can use a little tiny, little 5 amp switch or something like that up at the dash, and you don't have to run these massive wires. That's what relays are for. So we have 4 of them here. Now I'm assuming 2 of these are going to be for spooling in, and 2 of them are going to be for spooling out. So what we're going to do here is we're going to trick the relay, or we're going to throw the relay so that it makes the connection. Now what I've got set up here, let me pan over, is I've just got a battery with a couple of alligator clips on there. Now we have to be careful, we have to do this kind of quickly because these are not 100% duty cycle, I believe. I think that they're designed to work for like 90 seconds and then either they shut off or there may be a thermal switch or something. I don't know exactly. So we're going to take a voltmeter, which is something I really don't know how to use, but we're going to set it to ohms. I think this one's set there, and what we're going to measure is we're going to engage the relay, it'll go click, and then we're going to measure across these 2 posts, and I think that we need to have very little resistance. Whoops. Or we might catch everything on fire and have to, and not have a winch. Oh, I get great. I want you to see this. Let's just put a little gaffer's tape on there. Can you see that? Is it glare right? Okay, so for resistance, if high school electronics comes through, if I remember it here, when we check here, we should be 0. We touch these together. Okay, we have to do this kind of quickly, so hopefully when we're going to do relay number 1. Okay, so you heard that? It's engaged. Now if we check between these 2 posts, we're at so we have almost 0 resistance there. So if I'm doing this right, I think what that's telling me is that solenoid is good. Check the points. All right, okay, what do we got there? 2. Let me disengage that there. Again, I don't think those are supposed to stay engaged too long. I'm afraid we're no closer to figuring this out than we were before. That's the problem with electrical stuff and with these relays, they can go bad over a period of time. They can like work and then not work and then work again and not work. So, are we in the phase where they're working? I'm afraid we're no better off than we were before. I'm going to have to defer to the comments here. If you are familiar with what I might check on this. So here's what's going on. So same thing as regular. So we've got our spool out right here. So if we spool out, everything functions properly. If I spool in, I'm getting the relay click, but something is not, the motor's not turning. I don't know. That's about, I've reached my ability when it comes to this of diagnosing, and I don't know what else to do other than, are we getting voltage to the motor? Could we check that? I'm not ready to give up yet, but these voltage meters are, well, I don't really know how to use them. But I got Granddad's old voltage tester, and I can handle this one. 0 to 16 volts. So, okay, so here's what we got, right? Either we need to know, are we getting voltage to the motor, right? We tested the relays, maybe we tested them right. If we did test them right, then they seem to be working. So I've got this grounded, so it seems to me that there are 2 positive terminals here. One to go one way and one to go the other way, right? Does that make sense? So I've got this guy grounded, so if we touch this one, let's see what the voltage is to the motor. So we're going to go spool out. Okay, that's under load, so that went up to just under 10 volts. Okay, so we are getting voltage to the motor. I don't know why it's not 12. Maybe the motor, because it's working, is sucking some of it up. Who knows? Okay, this is for you smart electronics guys. You can help me diagnose this. Now we're going to go spool in the way that's not working. So solid 12 volts to the terminal. Right? Okay. So here Yep, this is reverse. That's 9. If we go to here, if we light this terminal up, this should turn it. That's 12. But are we getting enough amps? I guess if one solenoid is bad, would it still be sending 12 volts, but not enough amps? I don't know how to check amps on here. Is that what the A is for? Can you? Well, as I said, I'm out of my depth here. Let me know in the comments what to check. One thing I can do is I can go check the Mousetrap. I want you to know that I have refrained from checking this until we did it together. How many are we going to have? Well, there's no mice in there. And somebody ate all the peanut butter off of there. How could they possibly how could they not fall in there? Somebody mentioned in the comments that he melted a Hershey Kiss on there and it stuck on better. How can that possibly happen? I wonder if it doesn't spin free enough. I mean, it's not super spinny. I can't figure out why that worked. Unless something else came in here and licked the peanut butter off. But you think it would have licked all of it off, right? Not just half of it? There's no chance that they're sunk down in the bottom. Wouldn't they float? Yeah, I think they'd float. Well, that's fail number 2 today. Let's check our rusties, as I've been calling it. Evapo-rust. I was calling it rusties in the last video from the Cars movie. It's evapo-rust. Okay, so we dropped a nasty old logging chain in there. Look at that. It's got a bit of a slime on it. I don't think a guy should leave it in there that long. But boy, oh boy, that sure cleaned that up. Isn't that incredible? That stuff is amazing. So that was that rusty old logging chain, and it is, I don't think you want to leave that stuff in there too long. That was like 3 days, and it's almost like it's only darkened it. It's like a blackness to it. I'd say that, well, anyway, way to see that works. This stuff's nice. What's so nice about it is that you can reuse it. Let's pull out one of the old time capsule drawers here. I was really hoping to get that winch going. I have something special planned. Oh, this is a cool one right here. This is a really cool one. I wanted to show you guys with the winch. What treasures are we going to find here? I've actually never dumped this one out before. If you're just joining us, my granddad was a Ford mechanic. Oh, the mice have been in this one too. It was a Ford mechanic his whole life, and he saved everything, all these little parts and bulbs and things, and gave it to me years ago. And oh man, those mice. And we're kind of going through it and discarding the things we no longer need, and a lot of the stuff is getting ruined by the mice. So these look like flasher relays, I believe. Tongue sole flasher. Yeah, you know, when you have your car and you hear that tick, 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 tick when your indicators are on, this is the little deal that does that. These are old, you know, these are just no longer Wagner flasher. Chrysler, that's a generic brand. That's probably not that old. That's a flasher right there. These have been for old Fords. But they're just not really of any use to me. And also look at all these old bulbs. That's kind of cool. These old indicator bulbs. Those are just not used anymore. We've got fuses. I can definitely use the fuse. I'm going to save the fuses. So let's put those. We'll put the stuff we want to keep over here. It's funny. I went to the store a while back to get some of those because I couldn't find any. And sure enough, I had a whole drawer full of them. I didn't even think about checking for the fuses. I didn't think that Granddad would have blade fuses. So these are the old ones, you know, the glass style, and the new ones are the blade style. I kind of like those old glass ones. I'm really scratching my head on that electric motor. It seems to me that the motor might be bad. Might need to have the motor rewound. that's probably about all the time we have today, but I wanted to show you something. I know we're not supposed to be buying more stuff, but, well, I justified it because well, I don't need to justify it. I bought something new I want to show you. So this is, I didn't even know this existed until several of you guys commented on the last video that we did on the toe strap. And I got to, the funny thing is, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, that right after I did that video, I think it was the day after, a guy came, knocked on the door and had slipped off in the snow, and I went down and pulled him out. It was really cool because I had everything already. So, but what I learned when I took my tow rope out, it's pretty frayed. It was getting pretty worn. It was a lifting strap that I got from a friend of mine years ago that worked as a rigger, and it was starting to come apart, and so they just trashed it because they were lifting overhead around men, and they can't use stuff like that. But it worked fine for towing. So you guys pointed out a couple things to me that this new tow ropes that I didn't even know existed. And they look to be really awesome. This right here is a 30-foot, it's a Bubba rope. This is not an endorsement. I paid retail for it just like everyone else. I don't remember what it was. I'll put a link to it. But I watched a bunch of videos and it's really incredible. Apparently the military uses these for lifting Humvees and different things with aircraft. And this right here it's 7/8, I think it is, 30 feet long. And I think it pulls 30,000 pounds, and it weighs nothing. It's got the loops already built into it. It's really cool. And the cool thing about it, what I have seen, apparently this is the big thing with the four-wheel drive community, is it's got some stretch in it. This will stretch, like, I'm guessing around 30%, if I remember right, so that you don't get, like, if you've ever pulled anyone with a chain, I gotta tell you a story. So my sister wanted an MG. MG is a British car, and MG is a byword for reliability, right? No, it's actually not. It's one of the worst cars ever made. Anything British, it's going to give you problems. So she had to have this little MG convertible. Of course, it was breaking down all the time, and we get the phone call, the car's broke down again. She was down at a shopping mall somewhere. So my dad and I loaded up. He had a Ford F-150, I think, and we threw the big logging chain in the back, right? So we go down there, and of course, there's nothing to hook onto, you know, British car. So we kind of wrapped it around the bumper, the best that we could. And my dad's thinking about this, and he decides, you know what? It'll probably be better for my sister Corinne, for her to drive the truck, and then my dad will drive the MG, because when you're towing someone with a chain, you got to keep that chain tight. And so when you're towing two people, the rear car does the braking, right? So you come up, it's a coordinated effort. You know, the rear car does the braking and keeps that chain tight, and you go on. So my dad made the judgment to let Corinne drive his truck, and he was going to drive the MG because we didn't have very far to go. I'll never forget this. My sister. So my dad had backed up close to the MG, and it was a long chain. It was like the longest chain I ever saw. It must have been like a 30-foot, or I remember it being long. So my sister he's backed up close. She hits the gas, and my dad's sitting in the car. This is how I remember it. I don't know, she's probably doing 10 miles an hour by the time that the chain comes tight. Of course, boom, the chain comes tight, pulls the whole front end off the car. And I talked to her after that, and my dad was so angry. Anger, I don't even know if that describes it. My sister just took off, and she's driving, you know, and she's dragging this chain. It's hilarious now. It wasn't very fun at the time, but that's the point. Maybe if we would have had a Bubba rope, would happen. But that's a fun story that we always like to talk about. So I'm looking forward to trying that. I was hoping to do that today when we got the winch. But the cool part, and I want to give you a little trivia question, and don't cheat. This is a soft shackle, also made by Bubba Rope, and it eliminates those metal shackles that we were showing, right? And so what you have here is you take this little, looks like a monkey fist or something, you thread this through your truck. You can put it through anything, you know, your trailer hook, your pick points, your eyes, all that, and then go past that on that knot, and it's got deal there, little monkey fit, little round knob there, and then that's how you hook. How much do you think this is? Oh, you're just going to look it up anyway. I'll tell you. This thing is rated 7/16 rope, right? That's a little bit less than 1/2 inch. What do you think this is rated? How much do you think this will pull? Any guesses? I asked Mrs. W. She said 1,000 pounds. It's rated 52,000 pounds, 52,300 pounds, right there. What's it weigh? 3 or 4 ounces? Incredible. This is replacing those huge shackles. So the thing that really appealed to me when I saw this was, man, how nice. You don't have all that energy. You don't have a missile that could potentially kill someone. You can put this on your car and you'll have this rope here, and when that comes tight, or if anything were to break, there's just not a lot of mass here. It's just going to fall on the ground. It's just, it's really cool stuff. So I haven't tested, I haven't worked with it, but there's a lot of guys on YouTube that have been using these in real extreme conditions. So I thought it was kind of time to replace mine, and I got it because I thought it would make an interesting video, and I do pull a lot of stuff out. So yeah, I'm not be buying a lot of stuff, but this was, like, I made an exception for this because it was cool. So we'll do some more videos on that in the future. So thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos of really bad content like today, I remind you to click the thumbs up. Even if you don't like it, do it anyway. And let me know on that winch if you think you know what that is. I'm thinking now, just from using logic, I'm thinking that motor might be bad. But if you know, let me know. So thanks for watching. Hopefully it won't be raining tomorrow and we can get outside, and there's a lot of stuff I want to get going, and we'll see you guys in the next video.